my name's Emma. This is my theory application assignment for Education 181. I'll be interviewing a veteran teacher about the attachment theory and academic achievement in kindergarten students.
So most of my experience would be with children in the classroom, and their, um, attachments, whether or not they're insecure or secure, would be based around, their time in the classroom doing physical assignments, whether or not it's math or such studies, language arts assignments, to whether or not they feel comfortable diving in and completing them independently. Or it could also be, manifested in the cafeteria or on the playground, if they were not comfortable, climbing on high equipment or sitting near a, unfamiliar friend in the cafeteria. And so I think it could, be insecure attachments would probably cause anxiety and cause fear and, stress to think, who am I going to sit with on the playground, or who am I going to play with, or who am I going to sit beside in the cafeteria or in the classroom? It would be like, what if I don't understand this assignment? What if I fail? And then secure attachment, friends or students would have the opposite feelings where, it doesn't matter. I'm going to meet a new friend today, or I'm going to try something new on the playground, or, this is a new assignment that my teacher has for me. And if I don't understand it, she's going to explain it. And so their fear or anxiety would be less than those who had insecure attachments.
Yeah. How do you, I think that I address this like later, but how do you like make students feel more comfortable who you do see like with those anxious attachment styles?
Yep. Okay. So, in my years of teaching, I would have students come in, barrel through the classroom, and they are just happy go lucky to try anything and just are there for the new experiences and, are just happy to see what is in store for the day. And then I had those anxious children who had, what we would call insecurity attachments that, would say things like, I want my mom, or, I'm scared I'm not going to be able to do this well, or whatever. And so I had an approach that I always wanted to have an open relationship with their parents, because parents of, children with insecure attachments know that they have insecure attachments. It's not anything new. They have witnessed this anxiety probably since they were very small. And so I would do things like, we would have to open communication through something like Class Dojo, or Remind, that I could talk to the parents. And so I may say, hey, why don't you try? And then we'll send your mom a picture and she's going to be so proud of you. And so sort of put it on that, like, you're going to try new things and your mom's going to be so proud of you. When you get in the car, she's going to be like, oh my goodness, Sally, I can't believe you did that. And so that seemed to really work in my classroom. And then obviously, affirmation of praise and telling them when I know that they have gone out on a limb to try things that, didn't feel comfortable or didn't feel, quite right for them, that, they're learning and we all learn together, and that's why we're here. And that, no matter what, I'm going to be proud of them, for trying and for giving it, their best.
With this wasn't a question I sent you earlier, but I just thought of it.
Yeah.
With children post-COVID, so like children coming into kindergarten post-COVID, have you seen like a trend in like more anxious attachment styles, like since they weren't with people like in their infancy and toddler years?
Definitely. And another thing, this was not in your questions, but this is what I, have sort of seen too, is that parents, because of COVID, I think they know that there's these anxious feelings inside. And so there's this new term called gentle parenting. And
Mm,
I do think that sort of goes along with the insecure attachments. Those people who, have the insecure attachments probably were gentle parented. And so I'm sure you've seen, things where they're like, oh, you don't have to try that, I'll do it for you, or things like that. And in my opinion, I wasn't a gentle parent. My kids are grown, but I wasn't a gentle parent. I was like, no, you're going to try this, I'm not going to do it for you. And so, when I was thinking about your questions, I said, like, one is real big on the playground. So they'll crawl up the stairs, to go down the slide, and the slide looks big for a 5-year-old. And so they don't want to go down the slide. So they'll call me over and they're like, help me, get me, take me down or whatever. And I, after teaching for 27 years, I didn't do that. I'm like, how did you get up here? So we got to figure this out. I'm not going to do it for you, because if I do it one time, then you're never going to learn how to come back down. And so I would walk them through the process of going down the slide or either going back down the stairs, to teach the secure attachments that I'm here for you, but this is your job to learn and to, figure things out. I'm still figuring things out as an adult. And if someone always did them for me, which goes along with the gentle parenting, you're never going to self regulate and, sort of do things on your own. So, yeah. And
Yes,
it's,
the sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. The
no,
source that I sent you, the secure attachment in the classroom, a key to optimizing learning, talked about like the problem solving and secure attachment
yes,
and like the development of like the prefrontal cortex and like problem solving. And I think
yes,
that, like connects right into like what you're saying with like secure attached kids are like more likely to have like stronger problem solving skills. I feel like.
exactly. And I think
So,
it does. I mean, I was a parent, if I'm not going to let my kids problem solve, then how are they going to learn how to do that? I want them,
yeah.
that my personal kids and my kids in my classroom to know that I'm there for them. And if they fail, then we're going to, learn how to do it ourselves. But they're never going to succeed if someone, me, the teacher, their parent, their friend, are there figuring it always out for them. That's our job as parents and educators, is to teach them how to problem solve. And I do think that is a huge thing with COVID, is that we all sort of just shut down and got real scared, and so it's like we were doing the best we could. And I'm sure gentle parenting parents out there thought they were doing the best thing, but, it, it definitely has gotten better, now that we are past, 5 years or almost of COVID, but I still do see definitely some of the insecure, attachments. And
Um,
honestly, sometimes with the insecure attachments, the parents are not, I wouldn't call a parent having insecure attachments, but they're just shyer. And so they may not, push their kid to be, loud and out there and try things the first time. They're sort of teach them to sit back and watch, and see how it goes for someone else before they jump headfirst in.
Did you ever make any like changes halfway through the year, like realize like, oh, like let's try this or like let's pivot or anything like that, like to strengthen like any relationships or like make any like see any like oh like teaching ideas or anything like that that like helped with like the idea of like attachment theory or anything like that?
Yeah, well, definitely, the one that I had said as far as, teaching them to self solve if they're putting a puzzle together, and they're like, I can't do it. And they start crying and, just sort of start tearing the puzzle apart. I would encourage them, we're not going to do that. You can call for help. And I, may talk them through the colors. Well, the color that needs to go with this puzzle, it looks like it has green and brown. So let's look for the puzzle pieces with green and brown instead of just giving up and not trying, and teaching them to be successful. And another thing that I did seem to try or, do a lot is, so an insecure attachment student usually clings to a secure attachment student. And so they're sort of, it's they fall back on that person. And so midway through, or even when I decided this is, it's fine that they have that friend, but during classwork or during, a time where we're going to be problem solving, it's probably not good that they're sitting with that student because they're always going to rely on their, expertise or knowledge or secureness to, really just sort of do it for them. And so then I would change things, like that in the classroom. I feel like, I probably was changing things daily based on individual kids, just trying to make sure that everybody was as successful but independent as possible too.